You go, the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. Today we have an interesting topic, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat. The training wheels are off now. We're really going to have to do what we have to do. The training wheels are off. The topic today is, what does the code book say? And we will have Mr. Fuller address that, along with your questions, along with your Gmails. But before you ask Mr. Neely Fuller any questions and get his suggestions, have you read the code book? He's broken it down into 9 different areas of people activity. Have you read it before you ask him any questions to see what he suggests? You need to do that. Or are you just asking just to be asking, maybe to hear your voice all over the world? The training wheels are off. We're going to hit it hard today. What does the code book say to you? To get in contact with the show, call 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7 Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, @gmail.com. You could also call, we said 1-877-932-9766. You could also go to the YouTube channel, type in the word Talktainment, then type in the word radio, and then scroll down to Talktainment number 2, and then you're there. While you're there, hit the subscribe and like button. We would prefer you go to the TalktainmentRadio.com radio homepage and then hit listen live. That's all you have to do. You're there. Hit the like and subscribe button there. 7 Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y @gmail.com. And also you can go to the Facebook.com/Talktainment, and you're all there. Okay, all that is out of the way. By the way, that was for the replay of the show. Okay. We're going to talk about Mr. Fuller's book. He will explain that more in detail at the 45-minute mark. But it is important, especially for those of you who are on YouTube, I'm holding up the book, that you get this book and read it and understand it for whatever questions you may have, to see what he suggests in those 9 areas of people activity. He will explain those 9 areas or go over them or mention them several times during this 2-hour broadcast. And speaking of that, before we go to Mr. Fuller, donate. We need your donations for the second hour. For the second hour of the compensatory concept. This is what you want. You said you like it. I enjoy doing it. Mr. Fuller enjoys answering the question. But nothing is free in this life. We need you to do that. So donate. We have a donate button there, yellow button. And, of course, the announcement will be made later on in the program. Okay, all that out the way, because you didn't come to hear me. You come to hear what Mr. Fuller has to say, and so did I. So let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
You're still learning. Yes, indeedy. Okay, Mr. Fuller, the topic has been chosen, what does the code book say? Now, you have written this code, suggestions, and you try to include as many things in there as possible to keep us focused on what we're supposed to be focused on in the defeat of white supremacy, ushering in justice. Mr. Fuller, what does it mean to you when the question is raised, what does the code book say? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the code book was invented, the one that I invented. So lots of code books. It's not called by that name, but any instructions about how to solve problems is a code book. Any type of auto mechanics book, or any type of book about how to be a doctor, or how to be a farmer, or how to do anything, to accomplish anything. If you go about some procedures for getting it done, that's considered to be a code. So it comes to the race problem, all books, either directly or indirectly, about the race problem should be designed, or the author should have in mind, certainly I had it in mind, to try to come up with solutions to what is considered to be a problem. All books that how-to-do books are considered to be code books, you might say, for how to solve problems. So I tried to write one, simply starting off with my intention was to just give myself some direction, starting with myself. What do I do? How do I handle certain situations on a daily basis? So I wrote the first 6 pages for myself, and that was the beginning of what I later called a code of behavior and trial and error. And I did a lot of crossings out, things that I tried that didn't work very well, and I had to make adjustments, and that 6 pages turned out to be 13 pages, and then it ballooned up to something like 30 pages, and then it came to around 1,300 pages when I finally decided I was going to distill it into the 1984 version of it. Before then, it was just a whole bunch of scattered papers and notes, which is how I think some things come together. People, when they're trying to invent something or trying to solve a problem or try to deal with something, you just write notes to yourself, reminders. I mean, like going to the grocery store, you just jot down some notes because you say, the last time I went to the store, I forgot to get some onions, and I keep forgetting that. So you make a note to yourself. And so that is a code, really. I mean, because you're talking about how to solve a problem, and you're going to formalize it. And you're going to make sure that this time when you leave, you're not going to leave out the onions, because you kept going to the store, coming back. You never had the onions. You always left that, you're trying to make a mental note of it. You had a mental note in your mind of the other items. So you decided to just put that on the list. Make sure that the onions are on the list. So that list becomes a code. And so every time you go, you take out your list. Make sure that you don't walk out of the store without the onions again. And that's basically what the formula for the code was. And that is, how do you solve this thing called the race problem? And how does an individual do it on a daily basis? Because you're an individual. You're not with people all the time or around people who can speak up for you or do this or do that or tell you what to do. So if you don't have a person there to tell you what to do about anything, history has shown that people make notes, and a thing called writing was invented to remind the person, just like getting the onions, of what to do, what not to do, so that you don't get lost and you can handle something in an orchestrated way or a codified way, I might say. And it just means a way of getting things done. Getting things done. People always, getting out of the hand-wringing thing, always scratching your head, trying to, how do I do this? How do I go about handling this? And so if you think about it and then put something together where you trial and error it, you try this and see if it works, and try that and see if it works, and reject those things that don't work and keep those things that do work, and then you get in the habit of doing that. And if you keep it jotted down, because there's an old saying, the worst pencil in the world is better than the best memory. And this is why all down through history, people have tried to put things in books and on paper and whatnot, right on the side of a wall or something, as reminders, because your memory doesn't always serve you well. They have found that out by trial and error. So you codify things by writing them down. And so books like, Bibles and all that type of thing, handyman books, books on how to build a house, books on how to fix a car, to have that. You say, well, where's the book on this? I mean, where's, this model car? Well, where's the guidebook? Well, how do you start it? How do you repair it? What needs to be repaired? How do you maintain it? These are code books. And so a counter-racist code, which means a book that's designed to help you get rid of racism, is nothing but just a formalized way of going about doing things. Hopefully. The race problem has never been solved, but we have to put something down about how do you go about solving it if you intend to solve it. And I tried to address mine to the individual person.
Okay. All right, our topic today for April the 17th, 2019, what does the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept book say to address your questions?
Well, that's a long, basic title.
I know, but you said earlier, and I did put code down, but then you said there are all kind of codes. So that prompted me to go specifically since you went there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
For
okay.
Sure.
All right.
So I gave it that long title, and when I gave it that title, I looked at it and I said, my goodness, that title is absolutely too long.
Right.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Come on, Fuller.
Yes.
You wouldn't want to deal with that yourself.
Exactly.
I mean, that's too cumbersome.
Okay.
I mean, what does it mean?
Okay.
And so I said, well, I'm going to shorten it. So I called it the code.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's what I did at the beginning of
Right.
it when I announced the
Yes.
code. All right. Anyway, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, you are on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. This is Joe Carter from Harlem. I had a quick comment and a quick question. The comment is the American DOS, which American Descendants of Slaves, which was coined by Yvette Cornell and Antonio Moore. In my perspective, in my view, I believe that they're not really asking for, this is a topic on reparations. They're not really asking for reparations. From my view, they're asking for a compensatory investment, investment request, if I said that correctly. And I think that's what they're advocating, it seems, as each victim in each, I'll say, cell block, which would be country, it should be advocating for their prospective warden to give them a compensatory investment request. And I've been told, listen to Gus T. Renegade on the Cows, he had mentioned that he's spoken to you about is reparations and compensatory investment requests the same thing? So that's my question.
That is your question?
Yeah, my question is the same question that Gus T. Renegade asked him, is reparations and compensatory investment requests the same thing?
Basically, yes, because all you're doing is you're asking for something. As prisoners of war, that's another term that I am trying to emphasize, because a lot of black people can relate to being in prison, which all black people on the planet here in 2019 are in the prison system called the system of white supremacy. We've always been that ever since the beginning of the system of white supremacy, whenever that was. So we're in prison, whether we know it or not. Prison just means you're confined, you're restricted, you're told go here, go there, immigrate here, immigrate there. No, you can't cross this border. I'll go, the people who are the masters, the white supremacists of the black people of this planet, say, I go where I please. You go where I let you go. There are no borders for white supremacists. White supremacists don't know anything about borders except the ones that they make. They make borders for everybody of color. And so the people who are bordered, they have to ask for permission to move here, to move from this neighborhood to another one, to move from this so-called nation to another. And whom do they ask? Do they just take up, just pick up and start walking and just go anywhere they please? No. The white supremacist says, wait a minute. So you fixing to pick up and go somewhere? You black people are going to pick up and go somewhere on my planet? You think this is going to walk around on my planet? I rule the planet, boy. You think you're just going to pick up your rags or whatever little bit of so-called property that you have, which you don't really have anything that I didn't give you or allow you to have, and you think you're going to pick up and move just on any given Thursday and go where you please? No, absolutely not, without my permission. And so then you say, well, you as a white person, who do you get permission from? Oh, I permit myself. Can't you see that? There are no borders for me. I walk across anybody's border, unannounced, in the middle of the night, and kick down your door and ask you, what are you doing here? Because I didn't give you a recent permit. And then you got to shake and quake and beg, getting back to the point of making requests. See, we have to ask for everything. We don't do anything on our own. And we have to ask whom? The masters of this planet, in the form of people. Now, there's a master of the planet called the Creator, but when it comes to people and black people, we have a master 24/7, wherever you are on the planet called Earth. And all of the evidence, don't believe what Neely Fuller says, but all of the evidence shows this. I don't care where you are, what island you're on, where you think you're hiding in some cave or something. The white supremacists have already mapped that cave, if it's worth anything at all. And the white supremacists know you're in there, and they can make you move anytime they get ready. Now, that's what we're talking about, making requests. So if you want to make a request to come out of that cave and go anywhere, or come out of that island and go anywhere, directly and indirectly, you're going to get the permission of the white supremacists, or you're going to feel the white supremacists' wrath of you having not gotten that permission.
All righty. We're talking today, Wednesday, April the 17th, 2019. We're talking about what does the code book say? And we're having Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. address those. But at this particular time, TalkTameRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Here's three I'm going to get right off the bat. It's your time to travel. Of course, the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. that you are now listening to. And Talking Sports Plus with Mr. Bobby. Yes, yours truly here. Now, these shows are all exclusive to TalkTameRadio.com. And all we would like for you to do is to sample the shows or give a listen to it to see if you like it. Some will, some won't. It doesn't matter as long as you at least tune in to see what the various show hosts have to say in the various topics. But you're not going to know that unless you sample the shows and give a listen. Again, these shows are exclusive to TalkTameRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTameRadio.com homepage and click on programs, and there is a whole list of all the programs that are on TalkTameRadio.com. And this comes from TalkTameRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who was live from Washington, D.C., answering your questions by suggestions. And we're talking about, on this April the 17th, 2019, the code book. What does the code book have to say concerning your questions? 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call to get in contact with the show. And let's start off with this one from the Gmails. It says this comes from, and I have a very difficult time pronouncing this Gmail, but I'm gonna say GJ8 wrote this in for you to address Mr. Fuller, which I think you just did, but I'm going to do it anyway. It says, Mr. Bobby, please ask Mr. Fuller to comment on the ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery Reparation Movement. Thank you.
Oh, I'm not familiar with them. I haven't even heard of, is it a group or what? Because I'm not familiar with them at all. I have heard a lot about people asking for reparations, which is, if I want to address it at all, I say it is the same as compensation for damages done. Reparations means repair.
Mm-hmm.
Compensation means the same thing, basically. I've used the word compensation, but I say that if we're going to have a compensatory program for what we call slavery, we're really talking about racism, because slavery is racism. Racism is slavery. I mean, rather, racism is slavery, but not all slavery is racism. But since when it came to non-white people and white people here on the planet Earth, a system of white supremacy was set up. So that was based on color. So that was nothing but slavery based on what color a person was. So if you're going to repair the damage that was done as a result of that, the deprivation, all of the things that should not have happened, because slavery should never have existed anyway for anybody on the planet. People should have figured out a way to cooperate with each other on a basis other than slavery. But they didn't. So slavery has taken all kinds of forms among all kinds of people down through the whole history of the world. But the slavery that was inflicted by the system of white supremacy turned out to be the most powerful and the most awesome and the most efficient when it came to getting things done. And it destroyed millions of people, and still does on a daily basis. One way or another, destroys their minds, for one thing. It's not the best system. A system of justice would be the better system.
Yes, sir.
So in order to repair that, you actually have to, you can't pay that off in cash. Let's get that straight right from the beginning. That's, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
No cash can repair that. You have to repair people's minds. You have to repair everything, all of the destruction of people, the millions of people, all of the so-called wars, which were nothing but battles once the system of white supremacy was set up. It's just one war. That's the war between those who believe in racism and those who don't. And everything that is called a war since the beginning of white supremacy is nothing but a battle inside of that so-called war. Because in a war, that's what you have. You have battles.
Yes, sir. And
these battles are just going on by different names. But it all meant the same thing.
Yes, sir.
If it was directly and indirectly about color.
Okay.
And just about every battle was. So the repair job is an ongoing generational thing. People are thinking of these repairs as being just some type of one-shot project. Oh, no. This has got to be an ongoing thing, almost into infinity, to repair the damage that's been done. It just goes on and on and on. Cash won't do it. And so I call it the big poor. You got to guarantee, for one thing, just to start off, housing, education, health, and transportation.
Okay.
And you say, well, where's the limit for it? There is no such thing as a limit for it until all the repairs are done, meaning you replace the entire system of white supremacy with a system of justice. That's the repair job.
In every area.
Right, in all 9 areas of activity. You got to very meticulously and on an ongoing basis.
Yes, sir.
Go through every area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, and repair all of the damage that's been done in all of those areas of activity.
Yes,
and
sir.
you can do that through a system of justice and correctness, and then institutionalize, in my opinion, universal man and universal woman, something we have never had among any people. That is, people who are in perfect tune with the best that there is with the entire universe.
Now
that should be the aim.
Mm-hmm.
That's the repair job.
You said institutionalize them? What do you mean by that?
What I mean by what?
Institutionalize.
Institutionalize universal man and universal woman.
Yeah.
Which means, and they're described in the textbook for victims of white supremacy, what some characteristics of them.
Okay.
First of all, people who do not tolerate lies.
Okay.
All right?
Gotcha.
That's number one. Why? Mm-hmm. Because the white supremacists, they thrive on lies.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Deception. Fooling people. Tricking people into doing all kind of stupid stuff.
Yes, sir.
And whatnot. And tell them that it's progress. They got all kinds of scenarios for just ruining people, particularly in their minds. People of what people? People of color. And in the process, ruining their own minds. That's why the world is in such a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they have been able to produce all kinds of technology, but the technology that they produce hasn't kept up with behavioral intent, correct intent, people getting along with each other. And right now, they're making movies and glorifying movies doing what? Destruction. Destruction.
Yes, sir.
Destruction. I'm not going to name some of the popular stuff that they have out here right now. Recently, they have something called blockbuster movies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just look at them. You see people doing what in them? Tearing up things.
Yeah, killing.
killing. Mass killing like you wouldn't believe. Using all that fine technology to spread that message. And then wonder why homeboy is riding around drive-by shooting all day.
Hold that thought, Mr. Fuller. That's what our topic is today. What does the code book have to, what does the code book say? Mr. Fuller, you were speaking of drive-by shootings as an example in the institutionalized persons or men and women, so that we can stay away from lying and all different types of things that are going to be anti-productive. Would you like to continue that thought or go on to another question?
Well, I was just thinking during the break that if a person wants to start off saying, because people want to get to the to-do part, Fuller, what do? You keep talking about this and that and whatnot, and you talk about some code, and you say the code tells you what to do, make some suggestions. Well, what are some of the core suggestions, Fuller? That's what I would ask myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying right there on page 60, starting on page 60, the time and energy. It's just 4 things. And if you concentrate on those 4 things, you'll never be off course, because that capsulizes the entire book on everything that's in there, everything that's said about anything.
So, under
even
economics.
Reading the book, I mean, if a person just familiarize themselves with just page 60, and starting with page 60.
In the revised,
very short.
Expanded edition. Yeah.
In the revised expanded edition.
Yes, okay.
And it starts on page 58 in the 1984 edition. And just go to the time and energy. That's under economics.
Yes.
Right. And it says it's just got 4 things there. And if you're doing those 4 things, one of those 4 things, you're always on course. It's impossible to get lost. And that's code. That's hardcore code.
Okay.
I mean, for every non-white person on the planet, if you find yourself doing one of those 4 things, there are suggestions about what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing one of those 4 things, you are always on course.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just four things.
Four things. Okay.
Okay. And then if you want to elaborate and think in terms of the far future or the immediate future, if you can make it that, and some suggestions, and these are just some suggestions. They don't in any way cover everything. Covering everything would take a whole nother book or a whole nother library, because we're talking about universal man and universal woman.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what that would be like. But on page 169 of the Revised Expanded Edition, there's just some basic suggestions, and it says so. Some basic suggestions about what a person who wants to be a universal man and or universal woman can do.
I see it, yes. Yes, I see that right there. Some compensatory suggested basic characteristics of universal man.
That's 169 page.
Got it. Okay.
Right. It's just a short list just to start off. These are basic suggestions. And I said a while ago, one of them is don't stay away from saying anything. In fact, practice never saying anything that's not true. And when you're dealing with a suspected white supremacist, you always keep it in mind, and you can if you're talking to a white person, if you know them well enough to have what you call as close as you can get to a civilized conversation, you can just make a request that the person never lies to you about anything if they consider themselves trying to help you.
Okay, so don't lie, period.
Never say anything to you that is not true. Because if you make that mistake, see, that's why you should, if a white person is talking to a non-white person, if you really want to solve the race problem, you don't make the mistake of doing two things, period. Saying something to a black person, a non-white person, that is not true. That is one of the things that you ask of any white person that you know. And you're all on a first-name basis, supposed to be getting along and all like that. Never under any circumstance say anything to you that is not true. Why? Because according to the code, it keeps you on the racist suspect list forever. Okay. Once you say one thing to a black person that's not true, then the other thing is, number two, top of the list, number one and number two. Number one is, don't say anything that's not true. Number two is, don't withhold constructive information. If you have any information that you think will help a black person, make a beeline or get on your phone or tablet or whatever you got, your means of communication, and whatever black person you know that you want to give help to or who you heard needs help, you don't withhold that information. Constructive information. Give them all the information that you possibly have on anything that is of constructive value that you think may be of help to that person.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, regardless if they accept it or reject it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Constructive information is
okay.
something that you know will be of help.
Yes.
You don't withhold it. Be quiet, because the white supremacists withhold constructive information all the time.
Yes.
They tell black people all over the world just enough to carry out the mission of supporting white supremacy.
Yes. The reason why
they withhold all other information, anything that's going to help that black person to, first of all, not be beholden to anybody who practices white supremacy.
And that was the word that I used yesterday, was beholden, because I was in a meeting and I had some information with facts and documented information, but the person rejected it in the sense that said, well, that's your opinion, or we have our own beliefs, or something to that effect. And it's true that I believe in what I was saying, but I had facts to back whatever statement up, because I said it's either true or not true. But they said, well, that's basically your opinion. But my opinion was based on fact. But anyway, that's why I asked you that. I found that even if you tell them that, Mr. Fuller,
Oh, sure. That's how you reveal intent. And so that's why it's important to codify that.
Yes.
And when they start doing that, any white person who say they have goodwill and all like that, and they're withholding constructive information, and you find out that they withheld that information
yes.
from you, they gave all that information, that constructive information, to a white person, and they didn't give it to you, they stay on the racist suspect list forever.
Forever. I got that.
They don't ever get off of it.
Yes, sir. Okay.
This has got to be codified and be spread all over the world.
Yes, sir.
Don't withhold. If you're talking to a black person, if you think that you got to withhold some constructive information, or if you think you got to lie to that black person, you run. You run from the person, so that you don't have to do that.
Yes. Okay.
Even if the person is wondering why you're running. I mean, because they say, hey, I got this constructive information, and I'm looking at this black person. I know this black person needs it. I can't let this black person see me nowhere in his or her vicinity, because I'm supposed to be giving them constructive information all the time, all the information, every bit of it, and I am never supposed to tell a lie.
Okay. Got it, Mr. Fuller. Caller, before I get to you, would you please turn your radio down? Mr. Fuller, let's do this. TalkTameAtRadio.com, we go where you go. Download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our topic today is, what does the code book say concerning the question that you are going to ask? But before we get to that, this is the time where Mr. Fuller is going to briefly talk about his book, and then we'll get to your phone call. Mr. Fuller, go ahead, please.
Yes, you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook, and then a compensatory counterweights word guide that's an addition to the basic textbook. But I recommend that you get the revised expanded edition 2016. That's the updated edition of the 1984 edition, even though the 1984 edition is still available. Some people want it, and that's why I put it back up there. But what is in the revised expanded edition covers also in depth what is in the 1984 edition. But for some reason, some people have said that they find the 1984 edition easier to understand. And so I apologize if my writing is that erroneous, or hasn't improved but went backwards, if it has that effect on some people. But go to producejustice.com, and the book is designed to help the individual person who considers him or herself a victim of the system of white supremacy. And it's segmented into 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And that just about covers just about everything that people are engaged in at any given moment throughout the entire planet called Earth. And it's supposed to make suggestions about what to do about solving problems in all of these areas of activity directed to the individual person, meaning you shouldn't have to go and check with somebody, some other black person, or go to a meeting. I mean, you can meet with yourself just by going to the book and taking suggestions from the book, and then embellish those suggestions yourself. I mean, you got to tweak them, because these are just broad suggestions, some of them. Some of them are very specific, some of them are not. So those that are not specific to your particular circumstances, then you tailor it to make your own code, to fit your own circumstances, and get in the habit of codifying everything. That's a part of the code itself. But go to producejustice.com.
Okay. Producejustice.com. Okay, Wednesday, April the 17th, 2019, and we're talking about what does the code book have to say to your specific question. Okay, let's take the caller. Okay, caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, brothers. I want a comment and a question. I think that Mr. Fuller's book should be like on the New York Times bestsellers list, and I think that people should constructively come up with a way to make this happen. It's been out for a while, and just his ideology is just amazing, in my opinion. It's even more something we as black people need is more of a logical approach as opposed to waiting on what can come from the sky to say this is something that's like there for us. But I want to ask Mr. Fuller, my question is that, like, looking at the legacy of Nipsey Hussle, should successful black people go or move back into their communities and to try to do things there?
Wait a minute. I lost that question.
He said successful. I'm sorry. Go ahead, caller.
Oh, okay. I was just summarize it. I was just saying, if a black person is successful and looking at a person like Nipsey Hussle, who tried to go back in his community, and even yourself, you're selling books, and you're trying to help black people in the same way. What do you think? Should black people do that? Or should that be the goal of all black people to try to be that way, or do you see where it's profitable or worth the effort?
Okay, Mr. Fuller.
Oh, yes, but see, you have to codify your approach to any black person. And that is, for one thing, you can't get in an argument with black people, period. I mean, we got to stop arguing. The minute the argument starts, according to the code, then you say, I will talk to you some other time. A brother or sister or whomever you're talking to, and you always have something else to do once the argument starts. All right, do not feed that argument, because that's going to... Black people, we go at each other. We do not do togetherness very well at all. We have to admit that, because we have been loaded with poison, and all of us have been affected by that poison. This is important to remember. I mean, super over-the-top important. We all carry poison. It varies in degrees in different parts of the world, but Rwanda shows it. Every neighborhood where you find black people clustered together, it is pure poison all over that place. I mean, you name it, it's poison. I mean, and we cannot even speak to each other for 15 minutes without that poison coming to the surface.
Yes, sir.
Particularly in the northwestern hemisphere. I mean, I hear people outside my window on a Saturday night, and I've heard it all of my existence on this planet. And sometimes just talking on the phone. People just passing by the building. All right? And what do I hear? I can recognize sometimes what we call a black voice, and it's practically screaming and yelling every type of curse word that you can possibly think of in the English language. And most likely, for sure, talking to another black person, because that's how we communicate. And talking about what we are going to kick when I see you next time. All right? You better not be there when I get there. I mean, you can believe that. Now, you be there when I get there, because I'm on my way over there right now. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm tired of telling you. Now, that's the kind of conversations you hear. You hear just walking down a sidewalk. I mean, we are some kind of loaded with hostility like you wouldn't believe. I mean, you can feel it, and you can get around 10 black people, and you can almost feel it coming. You can almost feel it coming. Can I ask you another question kind of attached to that same mindset? Like, are we asking for unrealistic things? Because the way we talk to each other, I mean, we say the N-word to each other more than... Our whole position is, even when we're joking around, is hostile. Hostility. Now, every now and then we'll kind of, have a facade of kind of breaking that up into a whole bunch of high fives and hugs, which is 99% phony, all right? Because right behind it is going to be the pop of the 9mm. That is our Bible. And if not that, some type of dagger. Recently been using a lot of knives because gunplay gets into gets you deeper into trouble with the white supremacists. All right? We know we got the answer to the white supremacists even when we slaughter each other. I don't care whether it's in the Congo or Rwanda or South Central or South Side Chicago or Washington, D.C., anywhere, okay, where you have black people, you have that built-in hostility. Man, I'll kill you. Don't you know I'll kill you? Don't you understand that I kill you? You keep on running your mouth. I'll kill you. I can kill you.
Yeah.
And I'll settle with the consequences later.
To prove what? That you bad?
To prove that I'm a man.
Yeah.
And we are, particularly black males, and a growing number of black females who are trying to be males because they'll find out that they have to be just to survive. Almost. Act like the males, dress like them, talk like them, get that swag, all of it.
But in the white supremacy system, you said that we are considered as boys.
You can't be a man in the system of white supremacy. That's absolutely impossible. Not Neely Fuller, not a college professor, not anybody. There's no such thing as a black man in the system of white supremacy.
So Neely Fuller is a boy then, right?
Absolutely. Being an old boy, I mean, you know, talking about our elders and whatnot. They're just old boys. That's all they are in the system of white supremacy. Let the white supremacists come around and see how quick they go from man to boy.
Yeah, or how bad you are. I'm bad.
Yeah, how bad they are. How, hey, I don't take no stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? You don't take no stuff? I mean, when the white supremacists come around, you don't take no stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't survive without them. They let you breathe, mister. Stop lying to yourself and stop trying to prove it to the boys in the hood.
Yeah.
Because when boss man show up, or boss woman, okay, because, oh yeah, you can push the white woman around when ain't nobody looking. But the white supremacists get on your tail. I mean, you're going to be, yes, master, no, master, maybe so, Bwana. Cut me a little slack, Bwana. Don't send me back to the prison again. Don't lynch me again. Don't do this again and again and again like you did my grandmama. Oh, no. See, all the facade, all of the nonsense goes out the window when master comes around.
He'll show you how bad you really are.
Every black professor, every black guy hanging out on the street selling drugs, we all know this. But our biggest problem is we keep lying to ourselves about how powerful we are and how great we are because we built the pyramids. That won't get you not one dime worth of nothing in 2019.
Wow. You blew it up there, Mr. Fuller. You really blew that up. Yeah, I'm bad. Yeah, I've heard that many times. Yeah, I'm bad. Yeah.
We use the word bad for good.
Yeah, he shows you how bad you really are.
And it don't take but 5 minutes.
Maybe not that long. Right. Hey, listen here. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. For all my listeners, all Mr. Fuller's listeners, excuse me, to make sure you stay tuned for the second hour, which will commence when the music stops. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You
got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk shows. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Alrighty, welcome back to the second hour of the compensatory concept here exclusively, well, I won't say exclusively, on TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. Again, you are in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. Our topic today for Wednesday, April the 17th, 2019, is what does the code book say in regards to the question that you have to ask? Did you look at the code book? Do you have the code book? And if you have it, do you read it? Mr. Fuller has expressed his opinion in the 9 different areas of people activity. Do you know what those 9 areas are? And you're going to ask Mr. Fuller a question, and you want him to answer your question, or is it because you want to be heard all around the world? Come on. He just mentioned in the first hour, don't lie. Don't lie to another person. Don't lie to yourself. Well, anyway, we're here, or Mr. Fuller's here, to address your questions and your concerns. 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com, and I will, if I have time, get Mr. Fuller to address your question here. Let me see, because my screen went black here, so let me get it going here, and then we'll ask the question here. Okay, here we go. This is, this comes from Danta. He says this, Mr. Fuller. Good morning. Another question from Mr. Fuller. When a white person adopts a non-white offspring, does that give strength to the system of white supremacy? And what can that do to the child psychologically?
The answer to the first question is yes. That does. Everything feeds the white supremacist ideology during the system of white supremacy. That's just the way it's set up. I mean, every move that everybody makes is going to be contaminated by the system of white supremacy itself. So the so-called adoption of a black child by a white person, all that's doing is just confusing that black child. You're going to add to it. The system of white supremacy is designed in such a way that it is supposed to confuse everybody who is non-white. Because when you have people who are confused around people who are not confused, the people who are not confused will always be the masters. The white supremacists understand that universal principle. So a child, so-called adopted, because we have all been adopted, it's just that some of us are outdoors, you might say, and an adopted child is brought into the house, you might say. That's closer. Just like Mammy back on the plantation. All right, she's a child, and like in the movie Gone with the Wind, Prissy is a child and acts like one and talks like one. So did Mammy. So did all of the house slaves. You know, talk like children, act like children. I mean, simple-minded, you know, and dependent, and beholden to mama and dad, who are the masters of the house. But the field slaves are also children. See, Neely Fuller in 2019 is an adopted child, illegitimately adopted, because my parents were seized my great-great-great-great-great-grandparents were seized and put in prison. So I was born a prisoner of war. So this so-called adoption, that's just a word. It just means bring one of my prisoners into the house, or bring them into this room into the house, all right? Or take one of those little black babies and that we have out there in the field on the plantation and bring them into the house. And we'll call it adoption, but all it is just like on the slave ship, just taking one of the young black girls like in the movie Roots and bring her up there to the captain's cabin and raise her, so-called raise her. Yeah, they're raising her all right. I mean, to what you call child abuse, sexual abuse. That's all that is for the most part. And you have so-called male, man marrying man, two white men, and they're going to show how they are liberal, and so they're going to adopt 3 black male offspring of black females who can't take care of them. And so there they are, getting their pictures taken and getting in the newspapers and the magazines as being great liberals who saved these children from foster care. And there they are all hugged up and whatnot and around an elaborate dinner table and whatnot. But all this is just an extension, in answer to the question, of the system of white supremacy at its worst. Mm-hmm. Because if you put 2 and 2 together, you just about can figure what's going on.
Yes.
It doesn't take much imagination.
Okay, second part of that question, what about the psychological effect on the child?
Terrible. And you can talk to some of the people when they grow up and they'll tell you. They're all messed up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, because they're still in. Now, if, like so-called interracial marriage,
yes.
Same thing. It's no such thing as a black person being married to a white person or even being married to a black person in the system of white supremacy. According to what? According to logic. That's what. Not according to Neely Fuller. Why? Because prisoners of war can't be married to anybody. Period. You're a prisoner of war. You say, well, yeah, I'm a prisoner of war, but I got a wife back home. You ain't got nothing. If you look at it the way that it really is. As long as you're a prisoner of war, you don't have anything. Not a wife, not no children, not nothing. And so black people, period, don't own anything on this planet. It's nothing that you can call your own. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you yourself are a prisoner.
Okay.
We have to understand that. Mm-hmm. If we don't understand that, then we don't understand the world that we're in, and we definitely don't understand anything about racism.
Alrighty.
Nothing. Zero.
Alrighty. Wednesday, April the 17th, 2019, we're talking about, our topic today, what does the code book, that is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept book, have to say concerning the question that you are asking? It's in the book. Mr. Fuller has put it in the 9 different areas of people activity. But have you looked at the book? Do you read the book? He's going to talk about the book at the 45-minute mark. But let's go to the Gmails. This is about abortion. It's in the book. But anyway, here's the question. It comes from friend. She says this. Dear Mr. Fuller, what is your stance on abortions? What are they? Whether it is murder or before 22 weeks in a pregnancy term.
Sure, it's murder. Sure, it's murder. We commit murder. Lots of it. And that's what we do. Babies that start here should get here. That's it. According to what? Logic. The creator. A woman says, well, you've heard the old adage probably. Some people have heard it. I brought you into the world and I can take you out.
Yes.
That's sometimes when mothers, quote unquote, get angry, really mean that at the time they say it, but they're just making a point. But really, the point is not true, because no, the child came through you, lady. You didn't make a child. You don't know how to make a child. The child came through you by whatever made people in the first place. See, and you keep that in mind. Lots of females try to have babies and can't. And lots of females got more babies than they can stand. Because every time they have sexual intercourse, they have babies.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And the babies just keep coming. But those babies are sent. Now, if you kill the baby, everything is set up to accommodate only a certain number in the system of white supremacy. That is where the problem is, because this world will accommodate everybody who is sent. So you don't deliberately abort a baby. The white supremacists among non-white people have said, oh, hey, if we don't limit the number of babies on this planet and orchestrate it, I mean, it won't fit into our system of white supremacy, okay? So we will advocate abortions mostly for non-white people and for a great number of white people, as long as we can keep the balance in the system of white supremacy. See, that they do all the calculating, and they know how, what the resources are going to be, because they're going to provide the resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're not going to let non-white people provide anything.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So therefore, that's all that's about, support for the system of white supremacy. So we're all guilty, but we can't help that, because the black female says, I got another baby coming. And the white supremacist says, oh no, we'll help you abort that baby, because that don't fit into our pattern. We ain't got no place for this baby. Another one of these throwaway people, because that's what you all are, throwaway people, all of you, all right, if we wanted to be that. And so we got no place for this third child, okay? So we go along with it. Why? Because we're prisoners of war. So we're really not guilty. We'll do it, of course we're forced to do it, because we're forced to do everything. We don't do anything on our own, period, except kill each other, and even that is inspired by the white supremacists.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it. All righty. Let's do this. TalkTimeAtRadio.com is the 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility, with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Here's a few that I'm going to share with you. One is Wiggins World. Another one will be a conversation with Don Carina. And how about this one? Blue Mood Saturday. Oh yeah, Blue Mood Saturday. Now listen, all of these shows are exclusive to TalkTameAtRadio.com. If you don't know what that means, look that word exclusive up and see what it means and how it works. But they are exclusive to TalkTameAtRadio.com, and what you might need to do as a suggestion is actually go to the home page, click on programs, and select what shows you think may be of interest to you, and then sample it. You don't have to listen to the whole program if you don't like to. You are in control of that. See if you like it. See if you don't like it. But you're not going to know unless you do it. And we all sometimes have blue moods. And hey, you get to hearing some of that music and it might pick you up. But you're not going to know that unless you do it. Anyway, go to the TalkTameAtRadio.com homepage under programs. Check it out. You'll see a little bio about, the people who host the shows and all that good stuff. This comes from TalkTameAtRadio.com. Radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who is addressing your questions. And the question of the topic today for April the 17th, 2019 is, what does the code book have to say concerning your questions? Did you look at the code book before you asking your question to see what suggestions that he has made concerning in your different area? Now, he's mentioned those areas at least twice today, and maybe a third time if we get to it. But have you done that? Do you have the book, which he will address? And if you do have it, do you open the book up and look at the suggestions? Anyway, we're going to go to the phone lines. Okay, caller, you are on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Bobby, and good morning, Mr. Fuller. I want to ask about what does the code say about building off what Mr. Fuller just said about we don't own anything. What does the code say about it? Can you direct me to the page? I do have the book.
Okay, good.
What does the code say about, I talked to several young people, groups of young people, and the main thing I get from the young people is, well, what do you have to show for it? Do you have a house? Do you have a car? I bring up Mr. Fuller and say, well, what does Mr. Fuller have to show for? Why don't I know about him? Why is he not famous? Why is he not a celebrity? And so in dealing with the young people, how do I teach that you don't own anything when the white supremacists have built this new generation up to only notice tangible things, only notice things that really don't matter.
Okay.
Cars, houses, money, celebrity even.
Okay.
How do we teach that to the youth? And can you direct it to the code book, the place in the code book? I don't know if it's on the economic.
Okay. All right. Thank you, brother, by the way, for purchasing the code book. That means a whole lot. Mr. Fuller?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, he made a lot of broad statements there that are very important, every last one of them. But I didn't quite, like I usually do, and everybody is aware of that by now. I usually didn't get the core of the question.
Yes, sir.
He wanted to know the specific page that you could direct him to concerning, what was that, brother, concerning?
Well, really, what I want to know is how do we teach the youth that we don't own anything when they've been built by the white supremacists to only notice cars, houses, and the tangible stuff like that. And I just want to know what page in the code but y'all can direct.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, just generally speaking, you can just go to 169 in the Revised Expanded Edition about characteristics of universal man and universal woman. And then if the person, and I don't even go by age because we're all children in the system of white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
Usually a lot of us, I mean, we always talk about the difference between the elder and the youth. And we talk about young black people, particularly the people of my age. We say, what do we tell young black people? And I've always said, according to the code, you tell people, period, the same thing. Doesn't make any difference. Doesn't have anything to do with age, how long you've been here. It has to do with you either telling people something constructive, or you're telling something non-constructive. There's no such thing as in between. So you always tell everybody the most constructive thing to do in every situation that you can possibly imagine. That's it. The most constructive thing to do in every situation that you find yourself in. Because there's going to be, each situation is going to give you an option. Either you're going to do something that is constructive, or you're going to do something that is non-constructive. And that applies to everybody of every age and every condition, everywhere on the planet, each minute of each day, regardless of who the person is. You're going to do something constructive or non-constructive. So all you do is just ask a person in a practical way, is this constructive? Just ask them that. When a person says, well, what I'm fixing to do is such and such a thing, and you say, okay, that's what you're fixing to do? They say yes. And you say, now, is the result going to be constructive or non-constructive? Yes or no? I mean, that's a slam dunk. Right to the point, right quick. I mean, you don't have to have a long, drawn-out discussion about this and that and the other and all like that. Everything, every minute of every day for everybody on the planet. The question always is, if you're sitting down to eat a plate of food, the question is, that food that you're eating, is it going to have a constructive effect on your body or a non-constructive effect? And you say, well, I'm sitting in this fancy restaurant and I got on, a tuxedo and, I'm at this banquet and everybody's all laid out in very expensive clothes and whatnot. And so we have some vodka here. Okay, all right. That's what you got in that glass? Yeah, vodka. What's vodka? Well, that's a drink. That's a beverage. That's something that I'm going to drink at this expensive banquet. You are. You're going to drink that vodka at this expensive banquet. That's what you just told me, correct? Yes. So what do you have to say about that? What I have to say about it is it's going to have a constructive effect on your body and mind or a non-constructive effect. Because there's no such thing as in between.
Yes, sir.
See? And that applies to every move that everybody makes of any age. We got to get out of that age thing.
Yep.
A 5-year-old, the same thing you'll tell a 90-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. In language that the 5-year-old can understand.
Yeah.
All right?
Alrighty.
Just like you would somebody who is 150 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You got to tell them in a language they can understand.
Yes. And like you said, Mr.
Constructive and non-constructive. That's it.
Yes. And like you said, Mr. Fuller, at the beginning or in the first hour concerning this page, I believe you said start off by telling the truth.
Yeah.
Don't lie.
Yeah. We got to get in the habit of that. And
Yeah.
we all are forced to lie. We're forced to lie every day. We're super hypocrites. But the white supremacists forces that because we're in a prison system.
Okay.
And the white supremacists will say, well, don't you believe in, our value system? And so you say, well, what is your value system? Well, we are talking about, don't you believe that we have a system of justice? All right, you say, so, yeah, well, you can't get the job.
Wow.
Well, okay, so you want me to lie and tell you that that's what we got.
Man, that's hard.
Yeah, see, so you go ahead and you lie because you're forced to. You're a prisoner of war. Prisoners of war are forced to do a lot of things that they wouldn't do if they weren't prisoners.
Boy, that was a hard example, Mr. Fuller, but you're correct. Okay. All righty. Let's see here. Wednesday, April the 17th, 2019, and we're asking, or the question of the day is, what does the code book have to say concerning your question? And we will go to the phone lines. Okay, caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning. Mr. Fuller, I was listening to a Dr. Francis video, and she mentioned you. And she said that years ago she asked you, why do the white supremacists do what they do? And she said that you said something on the lines of, you don't worry about that, you worry about what they're doing now. And my question is A, do you still feel that way? And B, Dr. Francis also said that she felt the need to know why, and she started to research, and she feels as though that the white supremacists feel as though that they're genetically inferior, and that's why they do what they do. Can I have your thoughts on that, please?
That could be, because the white supremacists themselves do not explain why they do what they do, except to say that they are superior. That's what they say. And they say, and we prove it by having everybody come to us as beggars. All of you non-white people, all of you dark-skinned people, I don't have to go looking for you and ask you to do something for me. I'll whip you and make you do things for me, and you're not big and bad enough to do anything about it. All from generation to generation to generation to generation, as far back as anybody can remember. I can beat you at anything that you try to do. I even set up your little games for you to play that you're so proud of. I mean, when you're bouncing balls and all like that, I have to teach you people, dummies, how to do that. And then you praise yourself, but I gave it to you. I gave you the ball. You wouldn't even know how to put the ball together to bounce. You don't know how to put anything together if I don't do it for you. You don't even know how to hold your own hand if I don't do it for you. You're a bunch of ignorant people. You're useless, except when you come around me. Then you become useful. That's the white supremacist doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they have said this, and they have proven it so far to be true. Okay? But I believe that we were manufactured to be that way because these are the only people time that I've been on the planet, and the time that the people that came before me was on the planet were under the system, the prison system called the system of white supremacy. So in answer to your question, Dr. Wilson, and she's telling the truth about that. She said that she was going to research why they do what they do. All right? And it has something to do with genetics, their genes. And I said that she could work on that, and I was going to concentrate on the pain that we feel every day and what the individual black person can do every day to get some of that pain off of him or her. Because, you know, I could spend a lot of time researching everything and researching and researching and researching, and this is important. And somebody should be doing that, find out the reason. Just like you find out the origin of a cancer, all right? Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stop the cancer if you don't know what puts it together. But at the same time, if you can alleviate the pain and get rid of the cancer and work from that angle and work back to its origin, well, then you do it that way. So if you got people working from one end that's doing all the research of the why, and then you got somebody working on the codification of what to do right this minute, when you're fixing to get fired from your job or all of your belongings are getting set out on the street, because the white supremacist says that's where they're going to be, okay? And you got to do something right now. You should have a code for handling that.
Yes.
And that's what's missing.
That is what's
and
missing.
And that's what I started trying to write.
Okay.
So Dr. Wilson was taking care of the research of the why, how everything got to be the way that it is now.
Okay.
And I tried to write what to do about it right this minute.
All right. Got to leave it anyway. Today being Wednesday, April the 17th, 2019, we are addressing this particular question. What does the code book have to say concerning your questions? Before we get the phone call, Mr. Fuller, I was going to ask you, have you or are you familiar with, because I did forget this, the Real ID Act of 2005, what is getting ready to happen, particularly for those of us who like to air travel? Are you familiar with that?
Say that again.
The Real ID Act.
Real ID Act.
Of 2005. I forgot, but Congress had passed it in 2005, relating to the events that happened to September the 11th, making it so that you have to have basically a federal ID in order to fly domestically. Your state driver's license will not be honored anymore. You have to have a federal ID card. Were you familiar with that?
No, I'm not familiar with it, but I'm not surprised. And whatever that act is, if that's what it's supposed to do, just identify you for who you're supposed to be. Well, so be it, because after all, we're already prisoners of war.
Yes,
so
sir.
If anything comes down to the prison masters dictates about who's going to be, what our number is, they're going to have a different numbering system for all of the prisoners, because prisoners have numbers. Well, so be it.
So be
what
it.
What else is new?
Yes.
It's just another numbering
Just
system
another
for
number.
the prisoners of war, that's all.
Yes, and that was passed in 2005. I Googled it and Wikipedia'd it, and it's there. Passed again in 2005 and going to go into effect on October the 1st, 2020. You will have to have this if you want to fly anywhere in the United States or domestically. You will have to have this. So your rights are going out the window. Anyway, What does the code book have to say concerning your question? And have you read the code book? Do you have the code book? Do you read it? And we're going to go to the phone lines. And caller, it's your time. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate your work, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. I was looking at page 55 of the code book, and it says, as a major part of the compensatory repair process, speak and act to guarantee correct and constructive education, housing, transportation, and healthcare. I was wondering why Mr. Fuller chose to include transportation in those four, in those four areas. I'll take my call.
Wait a minute. Before you go, you said page 55?
Yes, of the 2016 edition.
You're right. Okay, now where is that at? Because I have the page 55. What section? What is it? A number or what?
Yeah, it says compensatory repair process, number 4.
Number 4. You mean as a major part of the? Oh, okay. Okay, yes, I see what you're saying.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, I'll take my answer off here.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, do you have that? Page 55, the last one under number 4, as a major part of the compensatory repair process.
I have it.
Okay.
As a major part of the compensatory repair process, speak and act to guarantee correct and constructive education, housing, transportation, and health care to each individual, non-white person who is or has been directly or indirectly victimized by the system of white supremacy. And the request, and these are just requests, to continue to guarantee that these necessities are provided until all persons so victimized are constructively self-supporting in all areas of activity until they are no longer able to be self-supporting or until they die. Now, since we're talking about reparations, see, I didn't use the word reparation, I used the word repair.
Yes, you did.
Compensatory repair process, and I talked about this earlier in the program in the first hour. But these are what I call the big 4. And so the question is, why did I include transportation? It's because people have to go from one place to another. And as the world population keeps increasing and becomes more congested, you should be able to get from one place to another with relative ease, without all the hassles. The airports now becoming clogged.
Yes.
Transportation, public transportation of all types. That's why you see the scooters are all over the place now. Mm-hmm. I mean, people trying to get from one place to another and get there expeditiously without having to be what they call red light fever, that bumper-to-bumper thing that's driving everybody crazy. And, of course, the accidents are astronomical. I mean, you know, you're trying to get from one place to another, but you're, to use a cliche saying, you're taking your life into your hands.
That's true.
Every time you get under a wheel. Now, think about it. Everybody knows somebody, including maybe themselves, who has been killed or seriously injured in a vehicle accident.
Yes, sir.
I know of several people in my entire existence.
Yes, sir.
Who have, and you say, well, how did the person die? In something, in a vehicle accident.
Yes, sir.
Everybody can name someone, probably in your own family, who was killed and or seriously injured. That's everybody. In the Northwestern Hemisphere particularly, who was killed or seriously injured in something dealing with a vehicle, trying to get from one place to another, whatever that vehicle may be, whether an airplane or a truck or a car or a scooter or a motorcycle, whatever, transportation of some type. And so, therefore, that should be straightened out as a part of the repair process, because a lot of people are injured, a lot of people, you know, their entire existence. Sometimes they're so seriously injured that they are no longer functional.
Yes, sir.
They need someone to take care of them forever.
Yeah, assisted living, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. All righty. Again, before we talk about your book, I have to do that intro on that. What does the code book have to say concerning your question? And we have somebody on the phone line. Okay, caller, what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Yes, hello, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. It's Mr. Walker out of Pennsylvania. I have one question, and I have a VGQ, if that's okay with you, Mr. Bobby.
If it's real quick, because we have to have Mr. Fuller speak on his book, so go ahead, please.
Yes, it's Area 5 law in the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. And I have a question of how does the term law and order used in support of white supremacy, and the VGQ.
Wait a minute. Let him answer that, and then we'll get you your VGQ. Go ahead.
Yeah, the law and order, when it's used by white supremacists, I'm going to say it again. The white supremacists don't do anything that's not going to give strength to the system of white supremacy. They're not going to knowingly do anything. So if a white supremacist says something about law and order, what they mean is we're going to give strength to the system of white supremacy, and we're going to do it through something called law and order. But that's all it means. We're going to make the system stronger than it is.
Okay. What is your VGQ, sir?
My VGQ is it's in the square right under that area. Is it just basically says your existence is in danger, and I believe that we really don't understand that on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment situation, because we are prisoners of war. That's it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Fuller, you're in danger. You want to speak to that before we go to your book?
That the VGQ is in danger?
No, he said there was a square that I think he said it spoke to our existence as being in danger. Do you remember that or what?
No, I
Okay. Anyway, okay, caller, I'm sorry if I apologize if I messed up your question for Mr. Fuller's response on that, although it was VGQ, which may or may not require a response. But let's do this. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And our topic has been for these past 2 hours, what does the code book have to say about your questions that you have? And do you have the book? And if you have it, do you read the book? Anyway, this is the time where we have Mr. Fuller discuss his book and the suggestions made in the book. Mr. Fuller, go ahead, please.
Well, you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook and also the original 1984. I call that the original. Actually, there were papers that I call a book that were under the copyright of a code book, the same title.
Yes, sir.
Before then. But the 1984 is what I call the original in a concise manner. And a lot of people have wanted that. But there is an updated version of the original, 2016, revised expanded edition. That's the one that I recommend.
Mm-hmm.
But others have said that they prefer the first one, so both of them are up there. And then there's an additional book called A Compensatory Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide. And it has words in it. It's not a dictionary, but it's similar to a dictionary, but it's a word guide showing you how to use everyday words in the English language. Some of the words, certainly not all, nowhere close, but some of the important words have been picked out, some of the expressions. For instance, like, what does the word America mean? And what do you say about America when the discussion comes up? What are the things you say and the things you don't say? And if you're talking about Africa or Asia, what are the things you say and don't say?
Yes, sir.
And these are just suggestions, all right, that should take you where you need to go, according to the code. Need to go in order to do what? In order to accomplish the job of having to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. That's what it's all aimed at initially, and eventually produce, in place of racist man and racist woman and their victims worldwide, come up with a formula for universal man and universal woman.
Yes, sir.
And have everybody on the planet be in constructive tune with everything that is of constructive value in the entire universe and beyond. And this is what the books are all of these volumes are actually aimed at doing. But the first order of business is to help the individual person just to get through the day.
Today, yeah.
Yeah, just each and every day. Things happen every day. What do you do? What do you say? That's what it is about. All the things you don't do, all the things you don't say, as many of them as I could possibly crowd into a book. Certainly not everything, but as a guide. That's what the books are about. To help the individual person who is a victim of racism just get through each and every day in the most constructive manner.
In the 9 areas of people?
In all 9 areas of activity. Economic,
yes, sir.
Education,
yes, sir.
Entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. As many do's and don'ts, because everything is about do's and don'ts.
Yes, sir.
No exceptions there.
Yeah.
You either do it or you don't do it.
Yes. Okay.
There are things that you do, things that you don't do. That's what the book is for.
All righty. I have to admit, I wanted you to say that again, because that would be the 3rd time that you made reference to the 9 areas of people activity, just in case they forgot. Okay, we're going to wrap this baby up. We are at 10:51 Eastern Daylight Savings Time. I don't know what that means. But anyway, the question has been, for April the 17th, 2019, pardon me, what does the code book say concerning your question? And we have Mr. Fuller address that. And right now, it's you, caller. You're on the line with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Fuller, I was talking to a black male about all these black females I see in this city who are either dating or married to each other. Black females married to each other, dating each other, married to each other. And he said that, well, a lot of people are just born gay. And I thought about what you would say, and I thought that Mr. Fuller would probably say that the system of white supremacy controls all the sexual behaviors of the dark-skinned people.
Did you say born gay?
Country.
That's what he
said that they were born gay.
Oh, man.
But here's the thing, Mr. Fuller. I thought your response to that would be the system of white supremacy controls all the sexuality of the dark-skinned people in this country. So what is your response to that?
As far as I know, yes, because when you're born in a prison, you do what the prison master says do, and whatever they have schools in prisons. I mean, where you take instructions. I mean, so the prison master says, "Hey, I'm teaching you this, how you conduct yourself in my prison." That's one of the first things you learn when you go to a prison, what the code book calls greater confinement.
Yeah, greater confinement.
But I mean, but the entire world for people of color is a prison in the system of white supremacy. That's the name of the prison. The system of white supremacy is the name of the world prison for people of color. So they have rules and regulations and laws governing sexual behavior in a prison. And so the prison master says, well, I'm going to have my prisoners engaging in certain types of sexuality that helps me to run my prison. And that's what the white supremacists are doing to the non-white people of the entire planet. They're saying that regardless of how you're born or what your tendencies are, I will govern the direction you will take, because sexuality can go in all kinds of directions. Like some black old folks used to say, if you snore in a bear's face long enough, you'll learn to like it.
Woo!
So the white supremacists, so the white supremacists know how to pair off people, just like you can pair off animals that really shouldn't be doing certain things. I mean, you put a cat in a cage with another type of animal that's not a cat. I mean, you can probably train those, to start getting the eye for each other. I mean, any kind of animals. And you can do the same thing with people. You put them in a certain environment, pump up that propaganda, start saying, hey, this is what you should be doing. This is the greatest thing since. All right, the greatest thing since the sun in the sky. You need to be getting on board with this, or you're not up with the latest fashion.
So have they trained the women to like each other like that, to be gay?
Well, getting back to that bear thing, you wrap up people close enough and endorse it and feed. I mean, hey, you can have father with daughter. You can have You can have brother with brother. I mean, hey, if that's the way you want to go. Sexuality is flexible, all right? Very flexible, all right? But there are some basic sexualities that if you just let it go in its normal way, I mean, without any interruptions, without any chemicals in the food and all this type of thing, I mean, where males will have breasts and all this, like, see, the white supremacists know how to orchestrate everything. They know how to distort nature, okay, on a huge scale, which they do. Like for years, we thought that it was debonair, and you look at all the old movies, everybody did what? Smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, smoke cigarettes, right.
Smoke cigarettes, everybody in every movie. Old Humphrey Bogart movies and whatnot. I mean, there's chain smoking, everybody. Why? Because they say that's what you do.
So are you saying...
When you get to be a certain age, you are going to smoke tobacco.
So are you saying that type of sexual activity, women liking women, men liking men, strengthens the white supremacy?
Here's what I think the white supremacists are doing directly with what he's just talking about. Caller just said about black females wrapping themselves around each other. The white supremacists are going to run short of what you call the alpha type black or white male who is a military person, believes in being in the Green Berets and the Foreign Legion and different armies all over the world and whatnot, the Russian army and whatever, and being in an army, all right? Traditionally, that's been a male thing.
Yes.
But see, little by little, a lot of males are beginning to do what Ernest Hemingway said about dying like a dog for no good reason, and like was even said in the movie Gone with the Wind, that after the war, nobody even knows what the war was about, all right? So the white supremacists have studied the mentality of people worldwide. They say people are getting tired of this endless fighting, the people who actually do the fighting.
Yeah.
The veterans who are now committing suicide, I mean, on account of, they're saying, hey, nobody's paying any attention to me. The parade is gone, and I got my legs gone. And what was this all about? I mean, what did I do make this sacrifice for? People are beginning to question all of these wars that keep being manufactured by people who are sitting around sipping champagne like they have been ever since war started, okay? So a lot of people are becoming very aware that maybe they're being took, okay?
Wow.
So what do? You take a lot of black females who can no longer depend and never could depend on black males and wrap them around each other, okay? And then say, okay, now that you're with each other, what are you going to do for a living?
Wow.
They say, well, we'll put you in our armies.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I am so sorry, Mr. Fuller, but they're telling me I got to leave it there. I'm sorry to walk over you, but I got to leave it there. But that was a good thought. Thank you, Fuller. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. TalkTimeAtRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Hopefully, we can pick that up next week because that was deep. All right. Thank you.
To the compensatory concept.
Thank you for inviting me.
Heard exclusively on TalkTimeAtRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important